Fold has one smaller outer screen and one large folding inner screen in a single device for $1,980. This is my very first impressions of the final phone that people paying this money will actually get. So right off the bat, this phone is chunky. So we kind of saw it coming with other folding phones like the Royale FlexPi and even the Huawei Mate X, but it kind of has basically the feel of two small Samsung phones put back to back next to each other with a hinge in between. And it doesn't go all the way completely flat against each other when it's closed like a sandwich. Instead, they create this little angle, like a small triangle. And then the phone's shape, like this folded up, is just really tall and narrow. So it's got this like candy bar sort of feel, and it's pretty heavy as well. Now the screen on the front, as you might remember, is a 4.6-inch cover display. Very tall. And then when you flip it open, you get a 7.3-inch OLED display that's nearly exactly 4:3, so pretty wide. Now I know a main question a lot of people will have about this is probably about the crease down in the middle where it folds. So to be perfectly clear, yes, you can see the crease, especially when you're just a little bit off axis or if you have a light wallpaper. And yes, you can even feel it when you run your finger over it. So it's not this perfectly, precisely flat, uninterrupted glass feel, but honestly, it gets pretty close. Like when you're looking at it straight on, you can easily forget about it. And it's, again, much better than that Royale FlexPi I saw at CES, although I guess that wasn't a very fun. But that opening and closing, that thunk it makes, I kind of love that. And the hinge, it just sort of snaps open to a full 180-degree flat position, and everywhere in between those two positions is pretty fluid to whatever angle you want, but it definitely feels like its springs are trying to pull itself closed. But yeah, opening and closing the phone is definitely a two-handed operation. I tried it with one hand, and of course I really didn't want to drop it, and I couldn't do it, so it's definitely going to be a two-handed process. I'm sure that's what we mostly expected. And actually that process can get kind of tricky sometimes with the interesting button layout. So there's a power button on the side of the phone where you'd probably expect it. There's also the volume rocker, and also a separate fingerprint reader for unlocking that doubles as a Bixby button. So it's actually incredibly easy to accidentally trigger Bixby, whether you're unlocking the phone or just trying to fold it or unfold it. I guess that's classic Samsung. Okay, a few other things I did notice. One, Samsung did technically just make a phone with a notch and no headphone jack. Kind of sad, I guess, but it actually does come with their new Galaxy Buds, their wireless headphones, so that's cool. And the notch on the inside screen, which holds two cameras and a bunch of other sensors, actually has this lip to it that's sort of raised up from the rest of the screen. But the notification pull down actually doesn't work from that side when you're unfolded anyway, so I guess it's not a big deal that the lip is there, but you definitely still get it cutting into things like videos and games or really anything that's full screen. And then speaking of cameras, this phone actually has 6 total camera sensors. So there's the 10 megapixel selfie camera on the front when it's closed. Then you open it up and you get that notch, which has an identical 10 megapixel selfie camera with an additional depth sensor like the Galaxy S10 Plus. And then on the back, yes, in a camera bump on this already pretty thick phone, you have the standard, the ultra wide, and the telephoto cameras, just like the Galaxy S10 had. So you'll never be at a shortage of cameras and lenses in each half of the phone, and it's all connected through this very special hinge design, but they still did manage to get high-end spec. Continuity is interesting, but it does make sense. So you do have totally separate wallpaper and home screen layouts on both the front and the back screens. They're independent of each other, but with supported apps, which are mostly Samsung and Google apps right now, you can open them on the small screen, then unfold the phone, and they will continue where you left off on the big screen. And it actually works pretty quickly and surprisingly well, much faster than that one time on stage that we first saw the demo. So I opened the Play Store, scrolled down a little bit, then unfolded the phone, and the Play Store was open and even scrolled down a bit where I left off. That is dope. Another good application for it was Google Maps, which we've seen the demos of on stage, but I tried it. I opened up Google Maps, and I clicked on this business listing, and then when I unfolded the phone, that listing was open where I left off, just much bigger. So I gotta play with this more. I think it also works with YouTube videos and some other apps. I'm gonna test that a lot. That should be really interesting. But that other feature I mentioned is multi-window. And I guess as you'd expect with a huge screen on the inside and 12 gigs of RAM and everything, you can easily have multiple apps open at once. You just have to swipe in from the right side and all the supporting apps will show up and you can have 2 apps side by side. And you can adjust the size of the window, the border between them and everything. And that's about as far as I would typically go, but you can keep opening and keep bringing in apps. and adding floating windows and even more, up to a total of 8 apps open at once. And you can have most of them in these sort of floating multi-windows. Now, I don't know what kind of person's doing that much multitasking on a little 7-inch screen. That person. Now, if I nitpick even a little bit, of course I'm gonna find all sorts of stuff that's not ideal. You know, the outside screen being the main one, it's so small and has so much bezel. And hearing 4.6 inches doesn't sound that small, but I found it actually even difficult to type on with the keyboard open on the small screen. And then there's the notch stuff being a little bit weird, and the slightly incomplete, not quite fold is kind of weird. The price is super high. You know, there's all that stuff. But you know what? At the end of the day, even if you never use the screen on the front, you still get a big screen that folds in half and fits in your pocket. That's the part that feels like the future. And the big screen is, of course, a better camera viewfinder, a better web browser, a better video watching experience. And all of that is super cool. It's a step in the right direction. And this is definitely gonna be one of those phones people actually wanna get in the stores and play with and open, close, and see for themselves if they're into it.